you, Nate. So as Nate mentioned, today we're talking about Parameter Jammer. And one of the things I like to do is jump in by talking about some of the issues that we're trying to solve with the particular tools. So let's take a look at a couple of these issues today. On a regular basis in our projects, we have the need to go out and download content that isn't necessarily part of our standard library. So users are going out and downloading manufacturer content. Maybe they're families that are coming from a company that your company acquired. Maybe you bought another company and merged together. Maybe they're just coming from a random source. Someone's going up to Seek or, oh, God forbid, Revit City, right? You can go to a lot of different places and get content. The problem is that those parameters from all those different sources, they don't match. They don't match your standards, and therefore they don't schedule properly in your schedule. So what you need to get is family content that is based on your parameters. And but if you download this content from a random source, you have to go through right now and manually correct it, and that's very tedious, especially if there's more than one family involved. And usually the problem is this happens when someone recognizes this is a problem. They recognize it as of 4:45 on a Friday afternoon, if not later, and everybody's trying to get out of the office, and then they start tracking you down as a BIM manager, and you've got 2 hours worth of work to fix a family that's not printing, so they can get it done so that everybody can go home. And that's just not super fun. So let's talk about a tool that can actually help you with this workflow. So it actually helps the end user so they don't have to bother any BIM managers in the first place in most cases. So what we're going to use here is a tool called Parameter Jammer. It's on the project suite. You can use this to fix a family file live in your project. And that's awesome because you don't have to necessarily know how to do any family creation. It can be fixing these families based on your company's standards and shared parameters. Based on an existing project schedule that's going on. This is the schedule that they're trying to work with in the first place. And the nice thing is that there's minimal impact on the project timeline, and that's pretty key. So let's take a little bit deeper look here at some of the features of Parameter Jammer. So what this does is, again, allows users specifically to update content. They don't have to know how to do specific family editing. They don't have to know how to open up the family editor, know how to use the shared parameters dialog box, know how to add parameters, swap parameters. Don't need to know any of that. This is a really simple, basically 3-step. It's actually more like 2-step, but I call it a 3-step process. And this will handle 90% of the issues that your users will run into. And the nice thing is, again, this facilitates independence. They can go get a piece of content off the internet that they need to get, a piece of manufacturer content, put it in their project, use it in their design, and have it schedule and not spend, their own time trying to figure out how to modify family content that they don't necessarily know how to do or haven't been trained how to do. And they don't have to bother you to help them fix that content. The one requirement is users in your company must be able to read from your shared parameter file. They don't have to write to it. That's important, right? Those of you BIM managers out there, don't freak out. They cannot write to the shared parameter file with the Parameter Jammer tool. It just reads information out of it, but that's important that they can do that. All right. Let's take a look at what this process looks like inside of Revit. So I'm going to pull up Revit here. What I have is a part of our mechanical building. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a presentation using this file as the basis for mechanical to electrical workflow. And I have a bunch of VAV boxes out there. So if I go to my level 2 in my building, you'll see that I've got a few VAV units out here, just kind of chilling. These guys, I want to get into a schedule. In fact, I have a standard company schedule for fan-powered VAV boxes over here. It's coming out of my my mechanical packs schedules and details file. I've got a little content file there with some schedules in it. I've already sourced this down to VAV boxes. If I undo this, you can see I got a ton of different schedules that are available for me to find. But using the BIMlist browser tool here, I can simply type in VAV since that's the schedule I'm dealing with right now, and I can choose from a basic electric or hot water reheat VAV box or a fan-powered electric or hot water reheat VAV box. And the one that I want to use right now is this fan-powered hot water reheat box. So I'm going to grab this schedule and bring this into my project just by dragging and dropping. And what this will do is define for me a schedule over here in my schedules and quantities list called am_schedule HVAC, blah, 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 whatever that name was, and it'll show it up over here. So it's grabbing that out of my file. This way I don't have to have all of those, hundreds upon hundreds of schedules live in my project. I can bring them in when I need them depending on what my project's demands are. That's a nice little feature there of BIM list. If you want to know more about that, certainly feel free to take a look at our YouTube channel and find some videos on the BIM list. Okay, so I've got the schedule. I've got 23 VAV, fan-powered VAV units. They already have the right unit numbers and IDs. This is scheduling, filtering down my mechanical equipment for any mechanical equipment that includes FPVAV as its prefix. And then any other of the numbers will show up automatically. Now, there's information here like what room it's located in, what the room number happens to be. Now, none of these VAV units happen to physically exist within the boundary of a room. There's some properties here about what area is served. There's some manufacturer properties, and of course, I can type these out. I'm going to shut down the BIM list browser for a moment here. You'll notice down here that there's a VAV component, VAV23, that actually has some of these other objects like maximum airflow, minimum airflow. Some of these are actually filled out, but the vast majority of these VAV units are not. Now, they all, I believe, are the same type of VAV, so they should all have the ability to have these properties. Problem is none of them do, and I've used them 22 times throughout my project. Well, I want to be able to go through and make sure that all of these parameters can exist inside that particular VAV that came from some manufacturer. In this case, Titus. So I downloaded a Titus box. I don't want to use that box with my shared parameters. But I don't have the time to go through and enter all of these individual shared parameters into that individual family. Me, Joe, end user, I don't know how to do family editing. So I don't know how to go through and add these parameters. I'm confused, and so I'm going to call you up, the BIM manager, and you're going to have to do this for me because I don't know what it is I'm doing. And I shouldn't. It's not my responsibility to necessarily to be a, crazy good family editor. So what do? Well, if you gave me the tool here, Parameter Jammer, as long as I know which family this is, I can go ahead and do this work myself. So I'm going to go ahead and do Parameter Jammer here. Show you the very simple workflow. It's going to be pretty easy. So what I do is I choose the schedule that I need to work with. So in this case, I'm in my my M schedule HVAC VAV fan-powered hot water. This guy right here. So I'm going to choose that. Then what I have to do is I have to choose from the mechanical equipment that exists in my project the one that I'm trying to deal with here. Now, the one that's down here at the bottom, the VAV23, I happen to know that that is a double outlet VAV unit. So I'm going to ignore that one because that one's already working. The rest of them are all single terminal units. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this variable volume air terminal unit right here. So this is my first major step. Now, I did mention in the PowerPoint presentation that you do have to be able to read the shared parameter file. You can give them the path ahead of time so that they can know, or it can already be browsed where this is. They don't have to necessarily know where it is as long as it's pre-pathed. You can push a settings file out that'll already have on their user and the user computers where this is. They're not browsing around trying to find a shared parameter file. This should be your company's standard shared parameter file. So they choose the schedule and the family. So they've already in the schedule, they know which one it is. That's the first choice. Second choice is the family that's causing them the problem. In this case, these are all the same family. I chose the one family that I'm having troubles with. At least I believe it's all the same. We'll find out here in a minute. And so I go to my second step. My second step, what it's doing in the background is it's looking at my schedule. It's finding all of the parameters that belong inside of that VAV unit, and it's finding all the ones that do not currently belong, that are not currently in there based on my shared parameter file. So now it's up to me to go through and start making some choices. Now I'm going to clear all the choices that I made last time. I was doing a little bit of testing on this. I'm going to clear this out. Normally what they'll have is something that looks like this. There's nothing set yet. So what they have to do is make some choices. They have to go through and try and figure out what it is that they want to swap out. So in this case, I have a parameter in my schedule called equipment height. Well, if I drop this list down right now, there are some other length type parameters that exist inside that VAV box, and one of them is the height. That's actually the physical height of the box. Now, I can make a logical assumption in my mind as an end user, perhaps if I played with that box a little bit, to know that the height of that box is what I want to have be this equipment height parameter. Now, if I don't know that, all right, I could end up doing a little bit of extra work and doing some manual data entry, but if I do know this, what Parameter Jammer will do is take the height in my active VAV box, and it will swap it out for the equipment height shared parameter that I've got that my schedule is reading. So it'll actually retain the data coming from the manufacturer's file. Now I can go through and say, okay, well, equipment length, I've got that one here as well. I'm going to drop this list down. and I believe I've got a length of the box, perhaps. Let's see here. Maybe I don't have a length of the box. Inlet size, primary width, apply width 1, width 2. Yeah, it doesn't look like I've got a length inside of here. Might be L, but I don't know. So in this case, I'm just going to add this as a type parameter. I'll have equipment length as a property in my box, and if I have to actually enter that, I'll open up the box, in a couple of different types and enter that manually. There's a few other types of properties. Equipment width, I did see that one, so I'm going to go ahead and swap out for width here. Let's see what else we have. There's a couple of other properties. I believe I've got a phase property inside of there. No, I don't. Power factor, perhaps. Nope, don't have that one. Voltage rated, what the rated voltage is. So I actually do have a voltage parameter in the family that was tied to the connector. There's some electrical properties here because it is fan powered. So it's going to have electrical connector, and voltage rated is what I want to actually have that voltage property read. So I've got that one in there. There's a few other properties here as well, things like apparent load for my connector. Maybe I've got a property for that. In this case, it doesn't look like I have. Let's see, are there any other properties that perhaps I want to swap out that I might believe to be in that box already? Full load amps, perhaps. Yeah, current was one of the properties in my VAV unit. I can swap it out for a full load amp. That actually that FLA can tie in perhaps that connector and some of the calculations for it. There's also, oh, that's right, there was one down here, a supply air flow. So there's a supply air flow connected. There's also a maximum and a minimum, which is like manufacturer's spec. Now, I'm not going to bet that this particular VAV unit has minimums and maximums in it. So, yeah, I've got total air, I've got some inlet, and I've got some total supply airflow. The total supply airflow, I'm actually going to swap out here for supply airflow maximum. Or not maximum, sorry, supply airflow connected. That's probably what the total supply airflow is for. So I have the ability to go through again and make some choices. Now, I don't necessarily have parameters for all of these. I looked again, things like power factor. They don't have one for that. So what I'm going to do is take all the rest of these and set them all as type properties. They might need to be instance or type, or I don't necessarily know right now, but I'm going to be lazy and just make them all type properties. That's fine. If I need to switch them later, I can probably do that. But for now, I'm just going to drop them all in there as type properties and just click set. So as an end user, again, I've gone through and I've maybe made some choices. Maybe I just got lazy and set them all as type. Regardless, I can schedule it at least, because the next step here for Parameter Jammer is going to be for me to click next, and it's going to take all these parameters, these scheduled parameters, and either swap it if I give it something to swap for, or in this case, add it as type parameters if that's what I want it to do. So maybe something like supply fan airflow, I might actually set this if I know this has to change instance by instance to an instance property. I can actually set this to add it as an instance. There might be a few others in here that I care about, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and click next and get these parameters to be added into that family. So I sit here for a minute or so as it's actually doing that add. Again, I can get as specific or generic as I want, but I'm able to push those parameters in. Now, I'm using a mechanical example today, but this can work for electrical properties. If I was in an electrical model, it can work architecturally if I'm dealing with things like doors and windows, or possibly furniture schedules or casework schedules. It can work for anything. So all these parameters got added. In some cases, it swapped it out successfully. In other cases, it just added it to my family. A ton of parameters. What is that, like 40, 50-some parameters right there? When I click Finish and go back into my actual project here, as soon as I re-click in this view, every single one of these parameters is now editable to me, well, except for room and number, because those are automatic. But area served, that now I can type out what I want that to be. Over here, all those properties exist. Whether or not they're correct, at least they do exist. So I can now scroll down here and I can fill out each one of these, and I can start actually doing some data entry on this particular schedule. Now, I could have gone through with something like Spreadsheet Link at this point, Spreadsheet Link or Spreadsheet Link Express, and I could take and kick this out to Excel and do all kinds of extra manipulation out there and fill out some information based on the individual numbers of the boxes and give it off to a mechanical engineer who knows that information. But I have the properties now, so I can do that. Looks like I have another box right here. This one, that's the VAV09. I actually don't know which box that is. That's probably the double. That's probably what that one is. So maybe what I'll do is I will take this and apply this again. I'll do this process one more time for you on that double VAV. So we'll go ahead and use Parameter Jammer. We'll go through this process one more time. It remembers what I did last time. So it knows it's the M schedule, HVAC, VAV, fan-powered hot water. Let's go ahead and choose that double outlet. It could very well be that box, and I might have an extra piece of equipment out here that I wasn't expecting. So we'll use the double outlet. We're going to go next. It's going to read through that family. Once again, it's going to pull all the parameters in that are missing from the schedule. Looks like it's missing quite a few. Now, it remembered exactly the same settings that I chose last time, provided that they match up. So this particular family probably came from the same source because it has the same height parameter inside of it. Still doesn't have a length, but it does have the height, has the width, has the current. So I could go through if there's other properties that I want to try to swap out for the double box or something, I could probably try and swap that out. But it already remembered all of my properties. So this time it's going to be real easy. I don't have to go through and set anything. All my choices were already made. I can just click next, and it's going to go through the process of trying to make this swap. So in some cases, there was actually some things inside that family that were already existing, like a parent load and load classification. Those already existed. And because those already existed, it just automatically made that swap. It did a one-for-one name match, didn't even present it to me. It just let it happen. But what this is doing right now is it's thinking through the process. It's go ahead and doing the jamming of those parameters for me. And ultimately, when this is all done, I can click finish, and it'll have updated those other two entries, I believe, with the correct updated information. Looks like I'm having a little bit of a connectivity problem. This should be back up in just a moment for you. And you can see the parameter jammer will have finished the update to those pieces of equipment, or that one family. So give us just a moment here. There we go. It's back up, it appears. So now that this is back open, again, parameter jammer has gone through and done all that work, and it automatically, again, swapped the parent load and a parent load for the connector and the current to full load amps. It did those two things automatically. Just took care of it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. Or sorry, load classification was one of them. Load classification and a parent load. Those two automatically existed, so it just used them. So now that particular component also has been able to be scheduled. So once again, went through the entire project, the entire schedule here in this case, because it was just two families. That was pretty easy. But I was able to go through and swap out those parameters, add the parameters to the family. And if I didn't know how to do family editing, that would have been really easy. I mean, that was, me talking for about 10 minutes while doing this. That's a lot faster than trying to track down a BIM manager on Friday afternoon who happens to know how to fix these things, and then you spending your time doing it.